Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this 15th lecture session of the course, Computational Fluid Dynamics. So in the previous lecture, we have started our discussion on characteristics of discretization schemes. Okay. And in general, I told you about three important characteristics. The first one is conservativeness, second one is boundness, and the last one is transportiveness. Okay. So these are the three important characteristics which our discretization scheme should ensure while we are going for the computational solution of partial differential equations. Okay. So I have already talked about conservativeness, and I told you that the finite difference based discretization scheme does not take care of the conservativeness, whereas when we are going for finite volume based discretization, we are having inherently acceptance for the conservative property in our discretized form. Okay. Now let me talk about second important property or characteristic of our discretized form of equations, and that important characteristic is something which is called as boundness. Okay. So regarding boundness, this is something which is related to the stability of the solution. Okay, so if you recall to my earlier lectures while talking about the finite difference schemes or even about the finite volume schemes, I have told you that when we are having dominance of convection, and if we are going with the central difference approximation or central difference like interpolation functions for our convective term, we may have oscillations in our solution when we are actually using this particular for high velocity or convection dominant problems. Okay, so what the property which ensures whether our solution will be stable or not, that is something which we call as boundness. Okay, so there is some criteria given by Scarborough. So he was some scientist in CFD studies, and in 1958 he mentioned that if we are having one condition which is summation of all the neighboring node coefficients divided by mod of net coefficient for the node which we are considering, if this is less than equal to 1 for all the nodes within the simulation domain. Okay, so for all the nodes within the domain, and one more condition along with this, this entire quantity has to be at least less than equal to 1, at least for a single node. At least for one node. It may be for more than one node, but at least for one node, it has to be less than equal to 1. Okay, so let me explain over here what are these different terms. So if you recall to my earlier lectures, I have told you that we are having formulation something like this: AP into phi P equal to AE into phi E plus AW into phi W. Okay, so this is something which is our general formulation. And if we are also having the source term, in that case, what will be happening? We will be getting some more quantity over here as SU plus SP into phi P. So that will be coming if we are having one more addition of source term over here. Okay. So what I am referring to the meaning A and B over here, what I am writing, basically I am writing summation of mod of A and B. Okay. So it is basically NB refers to neighboring nodes. So if I am considering node number P, for node number P, my AE and AW will be nothing but the coefficients of the neighboring nodes. Okay, so that's why this particular summation A and B over here will be nothing but mod of AE plus mod of AW. So that is something which is the meaning of this numerator. Now let me talk about denominator. So in the denominator, if you see, we are having some coefficient AP into phi P, and apart from that, if we are having involvement of the source term, and source term is a function of dependent variable, then we will be getting some another quantity SP into phi P also over here. Okay, So now if I segregate all the terms involving phi p, in that case, I will be finding some term, some coefficient over here as nothing but equal to AP minus SP. Okay, so this difference of AP minus SP is some net coefficient which is represented by A dash P over here. Okay, so Scarborough has mentioned that if we take the sum of coefficients of all the neighboring nodes divided by net coefficient of the node which is under consideration, if that ratio is becoming less than equal to 1 for all the nodes within our domain. Say in our domain, if we are having say 100 nodes, 1000 nodes, so for all the nodes, this criteria should satisfy. Okay, and apart from this, it has also this particular ratio has also to be less than 1 at least for one node within the domain. So when I am writing this less than equal to condition, it may also happen that this ratio is becoming equal to 1. Okay, but if we have to satisfy the situation of boundness, then at least for the one node it has to be less than 1. Okay, so now if I just little bit interpret this mathematical formulation, so you will be finding that this coefficient A dash P is something which contributes for the diagonal terms in our matrix, whatever we will be getting. Okay, so this particular A dash P is the coefficient which is contributing for main principal diagonal terms of the matrix. Okay, whereas these some of the neighboring nodes, these are the coefficients which are neighboring to the principal diagonal. So it means if we are satisfying this ratio, so the meaning of this ratio is that all the neighboring nodes, whatever their coefficients are there, their sum is basically less in comparison to the diagonal element. Okay, so this particular condition will be satisfied when our matrix is nothing but diagonally dominant matrix. So this particular condition will be resulting in a diagonally dominant matrix. So means a matrix which is having significant quantity or significant magnitude along all the diagonal terms. Okay, so this will be applicable and this will result in a situation of diagonally dominant matrix. Okay, now let me a little bit relate this particular situation with the source term over here, particularly for the coefficient of AP. So if you see A dash P over here, A dash P is something which is A dash P over here is something which is nothing but equal to AP minus SP. Okay, so now as the main criteria tells, or main criteria contributes towards the achievement of a diagonal dominant matrix. Okay, so if we have to make the diagonal dominance, we have to increase this quantity A dash P. So what I want to do basically to make the diagonal dominance, I have to increase quantity A dash P. Okay, so now AP is my some coefficient, and to this AP I am adding, I am actually subtracting some quantity SP over here. So if my SP is negative, if the coefficient of source term is negative, in that case what will be happening? A dash P will be becoming nothing but equal to AP minus of minus SP. So in that case, overall, this source term will be contributing in increasing the diagonal terms. Okay, so that's why it will be going towards more stability. But if my term SP is, positive, if SP is positive, overall it will contribute. So this particular thing will contribute in decreasing AP dash. Okay, so this will contribute in decreasing the magnitude of AP dash. So if it is decreasing the magnitude of AP dash, our scheme will become nothing but unstable. Okay, so you can see we may have some situation where AP minus SP is actually or say we may have some situation where SP is becoming 0. So when we are not having any source term, in that case, our A dash P will be nothing but simply equal to AP. And under such conditions, if our scheme is ensuring the bounded solution, so what should we get? For example, if I have some domain and domain is having, say, some scalar value phi naught as 100 at one boundary and say 500 at other boundary. So whatever the values I will be getting in between for the intermediate nodes, I have number of nodes over here. So whatever the values I will be getting for the intermediate nodes, in the presence of, in the absence of source term, my values for the internal nodes should be in between the values which are specified at the boundaries. Okay, so that is one important physical interpretation. So when SP is tending to 0, in that case, the magnitude of parameter or scalar phi within the internal nodes has to be in between the values which are specified at the boundary nodes. And obviously, we have seen over here, if we are having some source term involved, that will be tempering our diagonal term. So upon tempering the diagonal term along with the source term, we may have the solution which is not within the boundary values. For example, if I take the case of one-dimensional heat conduction along with generation of heat source. So what will be happening in that case? Say I have some situation where T1 temperature is at left face. I have some T2 temperature at right face, which is less than T1. And within this entire domain, say I have uniform heat generation. So what kind of temperature profile I will be getting over here?
Parabolic.
Yes. So I will be getting temperature profile something like this. Okay. So here I will be having some points within the domain where temperature is actually higher in comparison to the boundary values. Okay. So if we see in our numerical solution, the term SP is something which is actually contributing towards deviation of our solution from having values within the boundaries. Okay, so but this is not physically incorrect. So when we are having involvement of source term, then obviously depending upon the magnitude of the source term, our values may increase or decrease in between the boundary values. Okay, so these may be either above than boundary values or less than the boundary values depending upon the magnitude of the source term involved. Okay, now another important criteria of boundness we are having. So whatever the conditions I specified, these has to be satisfied. But apart from these, one more condition also is there, which should also be valid to ensure the boundness. And what is that condition? That condition is that all the coefficients must have same sign. Okay, so what are the coefficients? For example, we are having AP, A dash P as coefficient for the node which is under consideration, and then we are having AE and AW as the coefficients for the neighboring nodes. Okay, so all these coefficients must have same sign. If the coefficients are having, so it may be the case that all are positive, it may be the case all are negative, but majority of the times we will be finding that all the coefficients are of positive nature. Okay, so the meaning of this is when all the coefficients will be of same size, same sign, that will be actually ensuring that if at one node we are getting increase of our scalar value, that effect is actually almost similar, that is similarly moving in the other nodes also. Okay, so for example, if at node P my value of scalar is actually increasing, so for the other nodes AW and AE also the value of that particular scalar will be increasing. Okay, so this is one very, very important criteria which should satisfy. And from this one, let me now relate back to the question which I have given in the assignment. So I have given you one question in the assignment where we are having, say, some value of phi naught equal to 1 at x equal to 0, and we are having value of phi naught phi L equal to 0 at x equal to L. And I have given you that velocity of the flow is, say, something around 2.5 meters per second. Okay, so in this case, if I talk about analytical solution, that will be something like this. And if you have solved the part number 2 of your assignment, so you might have seen that the numerical solution which you are getting, that is something like this. Okay, so that is oscillating something like this. Okay, so now whatever the numerical solution you have got, if you try to find out, if you try to check your matrix which you have got, so if you check the matrix, or if you check the coefficients which you have got over there, you will be finding that you are having mixed type coefficients. It means the sign of the coefficient is actually a combination of plus and minus. Okay, so this is the reason why we are getting oscillatory solution over here. Okay, so this is something which you can check with the case number 2 of your assignment number 1. So you will be finding, when you will be solving that one, you will be finding that our solution is of oscillatory nature. Okay, and these oscillations are coming into the solution because whatever the condition for boundness I specified over here, that all the coefficients must have same sign, that will not be true for that particular case. Okay, so this point is clear. Now let me talk about the third important property, which we call nothing but our transportiveness. Okay, so transportiveness is some property which takes care of the directional dependence into our discretization scheme. Okay, so for example, as I have given you the earlier also I told you, so when we are considering 1D convection diffusion situation, there what will be happening, we will be having some predominant flow in some particular direction. Okay, so the direction in which we are having flow, obviously the transfer of information or transfer of properties will be actually affected by the flow direction. Okay, so any discretization scheme which takes care of the direction of the flow, that is something which we call as nothing but transportive scheme. Okay, so now let me give you two different two different terms. So if you see convective flux, I have given some term F for convective flux. Okay, and that F I have told you as nothing but rho times U. And then I have given you one more term which I have called as diffusion conductance. Okay, so another term is nothing but our diffusion conductance, and the symbol for diffusion conductance is D, which is nothing but equal to mu divided by delta X. Okay. So these are the two important terms. So one term refers to that through the boundaries of the control volume, how much flux is passing because of the convective term, because of the flow. Okay, and diffusion conductance is something which tells us that through the boundary of the control surface, how much quantity of property is, or the rate at which property is actually traversing because of the diffusion. Okay, so these are the two important quantities, and their relative magnitude is something which will be actually deciding the nature of our, or which will be helping us in deciding the nature of the discretization scheme, that what kind of discretization scheme is actually needed. Okay, so if I take their relative ratio, so convection flux divided by diffusion conductance will be nothing but equal to F by D. So this F by D will be taking the form of rho U divided by mu divided by delta X. So this is nothing but representing the ratio of flow of property because of convection and flow of property because of the conduction. So this is nothing but, this is equal to rho U delta X divided by mu, and this is the definition of our local Peclet number. Okay, so this is the definition of our local Peclet number. So what I am trying to say over here, this quantity is equal to Peclet number. And why I am calling this Peclet number as local Peclet number? Because the length scale which I am considering over here, that is delta x. Here delta x is nothing but our grid size. Okay, so it means we are interested in locally some particular grid which is having size delta x. Okay, so this local Peclet number is some parameter which will be deciding whether what kind of discretization scheme we have to apply in order to ensure the transportiveness. Okay, so let me write it over here, rho u into delta x divided by mu. So now let us talk about the limiting values for this Peclet number. So this Peclet number may have either value equal to 0 or it may have value equal to infinity. Okay, so if I talk about limiting values of the Peclet number, so one of the situation may be that our Peclet number is equal to 0. So our Peclet number can be 0 only if our u is 0, because if you see in the definition of Peclet number, u is coming in the numerator. So either u has to be 0 or mu has to be infinity. So mu is 0, sorry, u is 0 and mu is infinity. So under these situations, you will be finding that we will be having actually no convection. So we will not be having any convection, and it will be, problem will be of pure diffusion. Okay, so under this condition, we will not be having any convection and we will be having pure diffusion only. And when our Peclet number is infinity, so that can only be true when my u is, either my u is approaching to infinity or mu is becoming 0. Okay, so when diffusion is becoming 0 or u is approaching to infinity. Okay, so this, in this type of situation, we will be having kind of pure convection. Okay, pure convection and no diffusion. Now let me give you one physical idea about the transfer of property. So let me consider that I have some node point over here as phi p, and some another node point I have over here as say phi w, and another node point I am having over here as say phi e. Okay, now I'm interested in finding the value of phi at point P, but I want to see that how much this value phi w and phi e is actually contributing towards the value of phi at point P. So first, let me consider the first situation, which is having Peclet number equal to 0. So when my Peclet number is equal to 0, in that case, I am having no convection and pure diffusion. So if I have pure diffusion, then how information will be propagating from these 2 points, phi w and phi e? Can you tell me? Information will be equally propagating in all the directions. Is this point clear?
Yes, sir. Elliptical.
So it means I will be having propagation of information in the form of some circles. Is this point clear?
No, sir.
Okay. If you recall to my earlier lecture regarding the classification of differential equations, okay, so there we have studied about 3 different classifications: hyperbolic equations, parabolic equations, and elliptic equations. Okay, and we found that in case of elliptic equations, information propagates uniformly in all directions. Is this point clear?
Yes, sir. Okay.
We also found that diffusion term in our governing equation is actually the main contributor for the elliptic nature of the equation. This is something which we established in the earlier lectures.
Yes, sir. Okay.
So now, as we are talking about the pure diffusion situation, which is corresponding to Peclet number equal to 0. So it means if I am interested in the propagation of parameter phi from the node points phi w and phi e, I can say, because pure diffusion equation is having nothing but elliptic nature. So that's why the information from these node points will be propagating uniformly in all the directions. So if it is propagating uniformly in all the directions, it will be having nature something like circles. Okay. So now here you can see that at some point this circle which is originating from the node point W is actually crossing my point phi p, and similarly this element, this particular circle, one more circle is also there which is showing the propagation of phi from node E, that is also actually crossing my point P. Okay, so in this type of situation, what will be happening, whatever the value at point phi p I will be getting, that will be function of both the node points phi w and phi e. Is this point clear? So when my Peclet number is small and it is approaching to 0, information at any node point is actually controlled by the propagation of information from left node and right node. Okay, so there is the equal contribution of the nodes from left and right side towards having the value at point which is under consideration. Okay, is this point clear? Is there any confusion?
Sir, what about the reversal of flow? The information would be going backward, right? So I have
Yes,
doubt about
that will be something like this. That will be something like this. Okay.
Okay.
So now let us go for the next situation where once again I will be considering the three nodes, say my P node and say node W and another node as E. But here now instead of having Peclet number equal to 0, let me consider that my Peclet number is tending to infinity. So when my Peclet number is tending to infinity, in that case I will be having nothing but pure convection. And what is the nature of convective terms in terms of the classification of differential equations? What is the nature of convection term? Can you tell me?
parabolic.
Okay, so it is kind of parabolic nature. Okay, basically it is if you see, convection term contributes to the hyperbolic part. Okay, is this point clear? Because temporal term is something which accounts for the parabolic nature. But if you once again revisit the classification, you will be finding that convection term is something which is contributing to the hyperbolic nature of the equation. Okay. So in case of hyperbolic equations, we have seen that information propagates in some specific direction. It does not propagate uniformly in all directions. Rather, we are having some characteristics and we are having some domain of dependence and domain of influence in which our information propagates. Okay, so over here what I am now trying to say, that my Peclet number is approaching to infinity, and this situation will be only coming when we are having some flow happening over here, because in the definition of Peclet number we are having rho u by mu into delta x. So this Peclet number will be becoming infinity when we are having very high magnitude of velocity. So when I am having high magnitude of velocity which is traveling from left to right, so what will be happening? This information will be originating from point W, but while it will try to propagate in all the directions, whatever the flow will be coming from left to right, that flow will be try to move it in some specific direction. Is this point clear? What I am trying to convey, is this point clear?
Yes, sir.
So this flow over here, which is happening from left to right, that will try to shift the propagation of information rather than having uniformly in all directions. It will create some directional dependence domain of influence and domain of dependence, where we will be having the propagation of information in some specific direction. Okay, so over here you can see, if I have to calculate the value at point P, that is only a function of value at point W, and the value at node east is not contributing at point P. So is this point clear? So we are not having any dependence of this east node, which is situated in the right hand side of node P, and whatever the value which is affected at point P because of the pure convection situation, that will be mainly contributed because of the origin of phi, which is taking place, or transfer of phi, which is starting from node point W. So is this point clear?
Yes, sir.
So now this is the situation. If you see the definition of Peclet number, that is equal to F by D. So from here we can say that for small f by d, which is approaching to 0, okay, where we are having actually less convection and more diffusion, there propagation of information will be in uniform. So we have to consider the equal weightage on both the nodes on left side and right side, whereas when we are having f by d approaching to infinity, in that case we will be having dominance of the convective part, and we have to consider some directional dependence discretization scheme which takes care of the propagation of information in a fixed direction. Okay, so this kind of nature is something which is called as transportiveness. And now let us try to see that whatever the scheme we have used till now, which of these properties it satisfies. Okay, so till now what we have done, we have considered our convection diffusion equation. Okay, and for convection diffusion equation, which kind of scheme we have used? We have used the linear interpolation function. So linear interpolation function, can you tell me which kind of scheme it is?
Central difference.
Yes, it is nothing but similar to our CDS scheme, central difference scheme. So now can you tell me what is the discretized equation? So we are having discretized equation as nothing but AP into phi P equal to AE into phi E plus AW into phi W. And can you tell me what are the coefficients? While we have considered linear interpolation function, what coefficients we have got? We have got AE equal to DE minus FE by 2. Is this point clear? I am just writing from the previous lecture. So this was only the coefficient. Please say if it is correct or not. So whatever the coefficients I am writing, are these correct or wrong?
Sir, multiply by area, sir.
Okay, so let us consider that area of the faces are actually same. Okay, so if area are same, then is it correct?
Yes, sir.
Then AP is nothing but equal to AE plus AW and plus FE minus FW. Okay, so these were the coefficients which we have got. Now let us test this particular central difference scheme for the different characteristics which we have considered over here. Okay, so what is the first characteristic? First characteristic is conservativeness. So does this scheme ensure conservativeness?
Yes, sir.
We have seen in the earlier lectures also, because while we are applying this particular linear interpolation function, we will be selecting it in such a fashion so that the fluxes across the boundaries are actually matching. Okay, so if fluxes across the boundaries are matching, it means this scheme ensures conservativeness. Now let us go back to the second criteria, boundness. Does this scheme ensures boundness? Anyone would like to attempt this question? Does this particular scheme ensures boundness?
No, sir.
Yeah, your answer is correct. It is not completely bounded, but under certain conditions it is bounded. Can you tell me the conditions?
Sir, when
Okay, so let me show you. So if you see, one of the criteria of boundness, I have told you that all the coefficients must have
Same sign.
same sign. Okay. So now let us test it for boundness. If you see over here, my coefficients are involving f, where f is nothing but equal to rho into u. So rho is a positive quantity. It is property. And let us consider if we are moving in a positive direction in the flow, say u is also positive. Okay. So my f is of positive sign. If you see d is nothing but mu divided by delta x, where delta x is our cell size. So cell size will always be finite and positive. Similarly, mu is property that will also be always positive. So d is also becoming positive. So now if you see the formulation, AW and AP will be always positive. Okay. So from here I can say that AW and AP will be positive always. What about AE? If you see the definition of AE, it is equal to F E minus, sorry, it is DE minus FE divided by 2. So when this will be positive? Once this quantity is greater than 0? Is this point clear?
Yes, sir.
So now from here I can write that D is, so I am now not taking into account the subscript, I am generally writing in general sense. So say my D is greater than F by 2. So from here I can say F by D is less than 2. What is F by D?
Peckley number.
Okay, number.
So that is F by D is nothing but equal to rho u into delta x divided by mu. So when my Peckley number is less than 2, if I am satisfying the condition of Peckley number less than 2, then all the coefficients of the discretized equations will be having same sign, and in that case my central difference scheme will also result in bounded solution. Okay. So now if once again I just consider the previous example, I have told you that when we are considering large delta x, in that case we were having oscillations in the solution, and when we have decreased the delta x, then oscillations in the solution have died down and we have approached our solution close to the exact solution. That is something which we have experienced earlier. So basically what was happening, while we were decreasing the delta x, we have ensured that we have to select delta x in such a fashion so that our Peckley number is becoming less than 2. Is this point clear? So now the question which I have given in the assignment, if you compare over there the Peckley number, you will be able to relate it clearly why we are having oscillations. So oscillations are when our Peckley number is greater than 2 and we are using central difference scheme. Okay. And when our Peckley number is less than 2, even if we are using central difference scheme, in that case also what will be happening? So physically what will be happening for Peckley number less than 2? So physically, if you see, for pure convection, for pure diffusion, we were having concentric circles. For pure convection, we were having elliptic nature. Okay. And what will be happening for Peckley number less than 2? So this will be the situation where our where our profile will be almost of circular nature. So there will be deviation from circle, but that deviation will be very, very small. Okay. So when my profile is very, very close to the circular nature, why? Because when we are comparing the relative magnitude of F by D, diffusion is also having comparable contribution in the convection. So when diffusion is also almost equally contributing in the propagation of property phi, so in that case, obviously, we can consider the weightage for finding out the variation of property on both the sides. Okay, is this point clear? And one more thing we can conclude over here, that my central difference scheme, if we are using it for discretization of convection term, it will be conditionally stable if and only if our local Peclet number is less than 2. Okay. Now let me talk about third property, transportiveness. So this particular CDS is transportive or not? What about the transportive nature of this particular scheme? Please answer. Say yes or no. What do you think?
Yes, sir.
So if I talk about transportiveness, so in the transportiveness, we have found that our scheme should take care of the direction in which dominance, there is dominance of propagation of the property phi. Okay, so if I consider central difference scheme does not take care of the direction dependence. It gives equal weightage to all the directions. So that's why this particular CDS scheme is not transportive. Okay, so this is one important condition we have to consider. It is not transportive. That's why it is giving accurate results only if Peclet number is less than 2, because there the transfer of property in a specific direction is not that much dominant. And if we are having significant dominance of convective term, then obviously this scheme will not be ensuring the transportiveness. Okay. And what about accuracy of this scheme? Order of accuracy. So whatever I told you about transportiveness, is this clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, what about order of accuracy of this scheme? What will be the order of accuracy? First order, second order, third order? So this is nothing but a central difference scheme. Okay, and this central difference scheme we are considering on uniform grid. So when we are considering central difference scheme on a uniform grid, it will be nothing but our second order accurate. Okay, so order of accuracy of this scheme will be second order. How to find out the order of accuracy? So whatever the discretized equation we have got, if you try to obtain that discretized equation by using the Taylor series approximation, and if you place analogy in between our equation and the Taylor series expansion, you will be finding that order of accuracy of this particular scheme will be nothing but second order accurate. Okay, so this I am once again over here trying to getting the information from our earlier lecture. So if you see, when we considered the central difference scheme and we considered central difference scheme with uniform grid, that has actually improved our order of accuracy. So that's why this is nothing but second order accurate scheme. Okay. Now, beyond this, is there any question till this point? Okay, so now let me start with the next part. So what I have told you just now, that CDS scheme is something which is actually conditionally bounded, and it also does not take care of the transportiveness. Okay, so we have to consider some scheme which should ensure the transportive nature. So for that, we are having one more scheme which is called as upwind or donor cell differencing scheme. Okay. So what we are having, we have one more scheme which is particularly called as upwind or donor cell differencing scheme. So what we do in case of upwind or donor cell differencing scheme. So once again, what I will be doing, I'll be considering 1D convection and diffusion problem. So say this is my node number P, then this is my node number W, this is node E, and I will be having some control volume over here, and this is having phase small w over here and phase small e over here. Okay, and let me consider that we are having flow from left to right. So U is moving in this particular direction. Okay, so now in the convective diffusion equations, while we have gone for the discretization of these equations, we have got discretized form of equation as, can you tell me what will be the discretized form of equation? So my original equation was d by dx of rho u phi, and that is equal to d by dx of mu times d phi by dx. So after discretization, what we had got before substitution of central difference approximation? What was the form of equation? F E into phi E minus F W into phi W. Okay. Was it like this? Equal to mu into d phi by dx at point E minus mu into d phi by dx at point W. Is this thing clear? Whatever I am writing over here. Please say yes or no. Are you not revising to the previous lectures? See, there is no meaning of speaking from one side if you are not responding. Please go back to the previous lecture. So what you have to do, first you have to integrate this and then apply. So you have to first integrate over the control volume, then you have to apply Gauss divergence theorem, and then you have to finally, after applying the Gauss divergence theorem, you will be getting your volumetric integral into surface integrals, and then you have to convert these surface integrals into the form of summation. Okay, so from there we will be getting Fe phi E minus Fw phi W equal to mu d phi by dx into E minus mu d phi by dx into W. So if you see over here in the right hand side, we are having nothing but diffusion term. Okay, so for the diffusion term, what we have to do, because in case of diffusion, information propagates uniformly in all the directions. So for calculating the diffusive fluxes, we will be using central difference scheme, and this is nothing but our convection term. So in order to account for the transportive nature of the scheme, we have to consider some scheme which will be actually taking care of transportive nature. Okay, so the scheme which takes care of transportive nature, that is something which we call as nothing but our upwind scheme or donor cell differencing scheme. Okay, so what we do in case of, so the discretization of right hand side will be remaining exactly same, but in the left hand side, when we have to estimate the value of flux at W phase, what I will be doing, I'll be simply considering that phi at small w at phase W is nothing but equal to, depending upon the node point in upstream. Okay, so stream is flowing in this direction. So upstream point of this W phase is nothing but which point? W point. So this phi W, I will be simply approximating equal to phi W over here. And while I am considering this east phase, what is the upstream node for east phase? Can you tell me upstream node for east phase? immediate. Please say again.
So 5E.
Phi.
E.
No. E is downstream. If you see, flow is happening in this direction. Okay. So E is downstream. Upstream node, immediate
Sir,
upstream
5P.
node, P. Yes. So this will be my value, say, as phi P. So what I have to approximate? I have to approximate phi E with nothing but equal to simply phi P. So if I substitute this formulation over here, upwind for these fluxes and CDS for diffusion terms, what I will be getting? I will be getting FE into phi P minus FW into phi W. So what I have done, whatever the value at face I am calculating, value at face I am simply approximating to the upstream, immediate upstream node. Okay. And in the right hand side, I will be getting mu divided by delta X into, for east phase, it will be phi E minus phi P. And for similarly, for W phase, it will be mu divided by delta X into phi P minus phi W. Okay. So finally, what I will be getting? FE into phi P minus FW into phi W. And this mu by delta X will be becoming nothing but equal to D. So over here, one condition I am considering that my area is same. So that's why area term I have actually omitted over here. Okay. So this will be DE times phi E minus phi P minus of this will become dW times phi P minus phi W. Okay. So finally, can you find out the terms after segregating coefficients of P, W, and E? So what I will be getting? FE
plus dw
plus DE. So what I will do, I will stop at this point because now I think there is next class in this classroom. So it is already booked. So I will stop at this point and we will have further discussion in our next lecture. Okay.